while I'm sitting in my chair late at night, watching crime unfold under the pale moonlight. From the darkest corner, stories unfold. True crime jewels, she's brash and she is bold. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From missing kids in Tennessee to angry husbands named Barry. True crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This true crime jewels got what you need. From missing people to twisted minds, we're unraveling secrets old Barry tried to hide. Every clue, every twist and turn. In the world of crime, there's always more to learn. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From Christopher's anger to Stephen Fisher's lies. The truth is calling, and justice won't be denied. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. True crime jewels on the YouTube streets. Lights are low, suspense is high. We're chasing truth, we spot every lie. Step into the darkness, hold on tight. Two flashlights out there in the dead of night. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep. Barry Morphy's case is hot. A boy in Tennessee won't be left behind. From the coldest cases to the ones that shine. True crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This true crime jewels got what you need. We're always watching Barry and waiting for the truth. In the world of crime, we discuss the proof. So hit that play and join the true crime journey with Jewels of Thought and her gemstone family.
All right, everybody, how are you? I hope you are doing very, very well. Okay, so I've been giving this a lot of thought. All right, the new information that came out, the state, we had gotten the state information, then Ann Taylor came out with the defense's information. And of course, there's still the haggling and the arguments that are happening. But look, the truth is there's just simply no way that a judge is going to allow, it's going to keep a 911 call out of a quadruple murder case, death penalty case. So I think across the board, I think we're going to get the 911 call is going to come in, all of the text messages that happened between 4 a.m. all the way to the noon telephone call, the 911 call. I think it all comes in just because it is a death penalty case and quadruple murder. And this judge seems dramatically different than Judge. And, I think his way is different. I think he's, a believer that you shine the spotlight on it all, and what you get is what you get. So Ann Taylor is putting up a valiant fight, but I think at the end of the day, it is probably an exercise in futility. Now, I am one of those who I was pretty disturbed by the extent of the discussion, the social media use, the texting back and forth, the telephone calls to parents. The front door is standing wide open at 9:30 in the morning, and still you don't get any activity until noon. That whole picture is wrong. Like, I'm certain of that. However, does that mean that I think that Bethany and Dylan are culpable, that they did anything wrong, that they were in any way involved in the murders or anything like that? And I think hands down across the board, Bethany for certain. I do not believe Bethany knew or had any kind of inclination or awareness of any of this. And in terms of Dylan, I find it really, really hard to believe that she knew or was in any way involved. However, it's fairly extraordinary what she did or didn't do. It's fairly extraordinary. Her story is an extraordinary one. So so I'm willing to, I want to make sure that I'm clear, that I'm not altogether sure that these girls told the truth about how things unfolded, but I don't think it was because I don't think it was a nefarious motivation. I think it was survival, fight or flight, anxiety. I think they responded in a predictable way in an unpredictable situation. So I don't look at this as if they did wrong. And I have really been mulling this over. I really didn't make my decision until yesterday that maybe if I was really pushed, maybe I would believe that Dylan heard, like that she had a good idea of what had happened. Not that she knew beforehand or that she knew the people that did it or anything like that, but that she heard a lot and she was just flat terrified. And I mean, if you've got a man who's capable of killing 4 of your friends and he's within a foot, an arm length from you, 3 feet, he looks at you and he doesn't kill you, then don't you have some level of awareness that he knows who you are? Wouldn't you fear him coming back to finish the job? So I don't know. I think while I can acknowledge that Dylan may not, there may be some things that Dylan didn't quite offer, complete truth or candor, but I don't think she knew. I don't think she knew the person. I don't think she knew about the murders, who did it, right? And I think that it's likely that she was in survival mode. And part of me wonders if Bryan, if he is in fact the killer, maybe he recognized Dylan. I mean, she's a pretty striking looking person, right? She's very beautiful, very tall. And maybe he recognized her. Maybe he was weary. Maybe here's a thought. Maybe he had already cleaned up and didn't want to get any blood on him. Maybe he was on the way out because he had already gotten himself clean. Also, hold on, because I didn't get this pulled up until just now. So hold on. Sorry about this. I should have. Let's see if I can find a better picture here. Well, they're not showing very good pictures. I guess because it's all like catalog type of stuff. So in the description, She talks about the thing over her head being more rectangle, not round like a ski mask. And so that would be, shoot, that is not good. Okay, I can just show this. Let me share this with you. So it's possible that, and look, this, please, trigger warning, this is not a nice thing that we're talking about, right? So there's going to be things that could be said. But anyway, maybe it was a wetsuit. Maybe it was a wetsuit, which would, she said maybe the opening was not round, that it was a rectangle. Well, these wetsuits, most of the head, it does cut straight across the top. And this is just, again, you got to have this, you got to have this trigger problem that you're going to be talking about things that some people may find morbid or uncomfortable. And I apologize for that. But if it was a wetsuit, that definitely opens up the, that definitely makes it easier to understand how he could have cleaned up and not have left anything in the car. Because if he's wearing a wetsuit, jumping in the shower, I'm talking about the shower there at 1122 King Street, the blood's just going to come right off of that wetsuit. And then all he's got to do is roll it up and put it in the bag. Is that what he was carrying? So that might explain, so maybe that's something else that could be, that you could get a warrant for with Amazon or in the surrounding areas if there had been some kind of purchase like that. All right. So again, pure 100% wild speculation. Also, I had a couple of thumbnails for this video, and I ended up going with this one because of this argument about the bushy eyebrows, right? Now, I want this side view, this profile view of Bryan Kohberger. I mean, he looks scary. He's a scary looking guy, really. This is the thing nightmares are made of. He's a monster, right? And I want you to pay attention to the difference between his eyebrows right below 2025. Look at the side, like going down toward his cheek. And then look at this picture of him in his younger years, all the way to the upper right. And look at the side. Those are, in fact, some serious bushy eyebrows. And I personally, and I'm about to say something that I really didn't think I'd ever find myself saying. I personally think that it's egregious that Ann Taylor would start cleaning up his eyebrows. I guarantee you, we're gonna get to trial, and he's gonna have the prettiest little coiffed, tiny, demure, little girly man eyebrows imaginable. You watch. They're gonna have somebody come in and pluck his eyebrows to kingdom come. And I think that would be terrible if they actually did that. So the white shirt, that's the creepy selfie that's sort of like saying, ha ha, I did it. You'll never catch me. Full bush eyes. When he was arrested, this is when he was in the courtroom, bushy eyebrows, his earlier ones, eyebrows. And then this one, the side view, This is from the courtroom one day after he'd already been incarcerated for a while. So they're cleaning his eyebrows up a little bit at a time, but go back to the old pictures. Go back to the old pictures. I think Dylan is right. And, you know, a lot of people said, excuse me, a lot of people said that he, you know, he doesn't have bushy eyebrows. He has, you know, heavy orbital bones. And no, he's got bushy eyebrows. He's got a serious hair problem where his eyebrows are concerned. No doubt about that. So there I have had my say on the bushy eyebrows. And then this is Peter Tragus, lawyer, you know, and obviously I'm not going to play his whole video, but I did want to listen to him reading these parts just because I want to address these parts and I don't want to deal with the whole thing today because I've got a killer headache. But I haven't done a video in a long time, so I got to get it done. So I'm being lazy. I'm taking the lazy way out, and we're going to let him read it, and then I'm going to comment. Okay?
The state's response.
And if mods, if y'all could put a link to his channel, that would be, I would be grateful for that.
The defendant's motion in limine number 9, excluding Amazon click activity evidence at trial. We're going to jump down to page 4, where it really gets into the meat of what we want to talk about today. Further, in this case, the evidence at issue is complete. The defense argues that the data the state has disclosed to the defendant is extremely narrow when compared to the more inclusive and broad warrants and subpoenas. But this argument is incorrect. To confirm, the state has disclosed to the defense all data, including clickstream data, that Amazon has produced in this case. The state narrowly tailored a search warrant for evidence regarding the crimes of homicide or burglary occurring at 1122 King Road. This included temporal limitations based on the officer's investigation, which limited the search from March 20th, 2022 through March 30th, 2022.
So
at the time, doesn't say at the time it was known Bryan Kohberger purchased a K-bar knife with sheath and sharpener from Amazon.com. So about 8 months before these crimes occurred, the state says they have proof that Bryan Kohberger, based on his Amazon history or an account connected to Bryan Kohberger, purchased the knife in question that it seems like is going to be the knife that is going to match what happened to the victims in this case. And of course, the sheath that was left at the crime scene.
So this argument that's been ongoing about the DNA that's on the knife sheath, the Kohbergers, they have really kind of hung their hat on this, and they've said that there was some funny business by the FBI with that bit of DNA, and that perhaps the DNA was even planted. And then the sheath was brought by Brett Payne at 4:00 in the afternoon because nobody else had seen it before Brett Payne saw it, and blah, blah, blah. Well, this changes that whole line of discussion, right? Because now we know he did in fact order the K-bar and the sheath and a sharpener. And then after the murders, he was looking to buy another one. And you go, wow, well, okay, so let's problem solve through this. If you're the killer, why would you be looking for another knife right after the murders, right? Here's what I think. I think if he had not left the sheath behind, no way in hell he would have ever been looking to buy another. No way. But because he left the sheath, he knew he did because he returned back to the apartment at 9 a.m. I'm sure he was deeply confused. Imagine this slaughterhouse You leave and drive around for an hour, dispose of the knife and the bloody clothes and stuff. You run to your house, you take a shower, put your Sunday best on, and then you do a selfie with a thumbs up to say, hey, Mom, I'm going to church, right? Can you imagine him driving back by thinking there's going to be cops everywhere? There's going to be cops. The kids are going to be crying. There's going to be ambulances. The news is going to be there. He was looking for his claim to fame. He was about to get narcissistic supply off of the extraordinary reaction to these nightmare murders. Can you imagine, though, him driving by at 9 a.m. and nothing's happening? There's nothing happening. No one's there. I can't even. I wish if he's found guilty, I really wish he would tell the story. There's so much to learn. Like what did he think when he went by and no one had called 911? What was going through his mind? Am I crazy? Was it all a dream? Maybe I didn't do it. Maybe I was at the wrong house. So I just, as a matter of just interest, I think that is a fascinating thought. Now, I do believe that when he did go back, maybe there was a little bit of narcissistic supply, interest going on. I do kind of think he went back to see if he dropped the sheep, like maybe on the road, like if he was running away. Because they spent, if you go back through the newsreels when all of this was first discovered, the cops spent hours up at the back of the lot underneath this tree. And I wondered at the time, maybe that's where he changed clothes. Maybe there was an area there that was quite bloody. And then I think when he left that tree area, I think he went right across the road over through the whites and then down. And I think that's him that we're seeing in front of the trash, the garbage thing. And then somewhere somebody picked him up. I don't believe that Elantra ever parked. I think that Elantra was moving. And the reason it was circling and moving and circling and moving is it dropped him off and it was driving around to pick him up. And we'll get all that information at trial. But I don't think it ever parks. You can listen to that Linda Lane footage and you don't ever hear that car come by and then the engine go off. It just fades off into the distance. So anyway, I think maybe when he drove back up there, maybe he was trying to, not that he would ever go back into the house during the day. I don't think he was looking to do that at all. I think maybe he was going to retrace his steps to see if maybe he had dropped it in the parking lot or, something like that. So, yeah. So I think that's all I wanted to, let me think if there was anything I thought I was going to say about that. Ann Taylor fussing about the too narrow of a search warrant. Look, here's the truth. If they had asked for more, she would have said it was too broad. So she's throwing the kitchen sink at this whole thing, trying to get some kind of relief, trying to get something tossed out. And at this point with this judge, that is not likely to happen. So they also in the footnotes, it does say that after the murders, Kohberger was looking to purchase a K-bar again. And, I don't know if he decided against it, Because here's what I think. I think when he realized that he lost the sheath, he went back up there to see if he had dropped it on the ground somewhere, retraced his path. And I think that he was saying, okay, well, now I run the risk of them finding the sheath. And I don't know if it's clean or if it's got blood on it. And I better now be ready to present the K-bar that I ordered previously. So I think him looking to reorder would be because he felt like at that point he made a mistake and that they were going to come knocking on his door at some point. Now, yes, it is incredibly curious about the whole Pennsylvania deal where he's separating his trash. His family talks about him wearing gloves everywhere he goes. He's cleaned the car multiple times. He knew he made a mistake. And I think it's amusing. I don't mean haha in this horrible nightmare, but I mean, I think it's the idea that he would be in such distress and he would have so much discomfort. I like that idea. Instead of him being all proud and puffed up like he was, he had gotten away with something. But I think him wearing the gloves and the trash, divisions and all of that just illustrates that losing that knife sheath, that was big for him. It was a huge mistake for him. And he was now no longer acting a plan. Now he's reacting to a stimulus that he made a mistake and messed up. Now he's freaking out. And boy, did he make some mistakes, some big mistakes. There's another factor here that is relevant at this part. So Brent Copeaka, it is incredibly interesting. So he died by gunshot. And that happened after he had spent some time locked up, barricaded in an apartment that he shared with a couple of the guys. And he was threatening to kill people. And it was this very dramatic and confusing, outwardly violent, aggressive set of circumstances that just seemed to not match the circumstances, that there wasn't anything in his life happening that would have explained such a strange reaction other than him being, having PTSD from having been active military. And we know now that there actually had been a search warrant that was done at his apartment December the 14th. He was not there, nor were any of the roommates. And the cops went in. They basically turned it upside down. And what were they looking for? They were looking for a K-bar and the sheath, the same K-bar and sheath that Bryan Kohberger had ordered 8 months before, right? I don't mean the same identical one. I mean the same type of knife and sheath. So I think that is incredibly interesting that when Copeaka got home, he walks into the apartment's been ransacked, turned upside down, and there is a signed search warrant laying in the middle of the living room saying, hey, local police, we were here. We're responsible for ransacking your apartment, and this is what we were looking for. And then within hours, he's holed up and they're having this major standoff that ends in his death. And when he died, that was the same morning that Bryan Kohberger and his father drove out of town. They, in fact, were listening to the aftermath all the way through, what was it, Colorado? Or maybe it was Indiana. Anyway, that makes me really uncomfortable. I just can't. We also had Judge. He actually used Copeaka's name by accident in one of the Kohberger hearings, which gives you that feeling that maybe there had been discussions about Copeaka, right? So one of the big mysteries that has sort of plagued this case, one of the big mysteries has been where did they get Bryan Kohberger? Like, how did they come up with his car? How did they come up with this guy? Because here's one of the deals. The FBI, all that didn't happen until like the 19th and 20th, right? So when did Bryan Kohberger come under suspicion, and from whom? And that's big in the pro-Berger community on YouTube. This discussion of, was he set up basically by the cops, right? Was information manipulated so that it goes from being information to looking more like evidence? No, I don't think so. I did for a while. I'm not real happy with Payne and his lack of organization. I think he was way he didn't have the experience to manage a single homicide, much less a quadruple homicide. But nevertheless, he was the guy. He had to do it, and I think there were some mistakes made, and in a foolish decision, I think they tried to cover up some of those mistakes. I'm of the opinion now, I'm not sure it was the FBI that was doing shady stuff with the DNA or with the knife sheath. I think all of that is accurate and good evidence. I think it's fine as it is. I think that they were waiting on Kathy. What is it? My butt. They were waiting on her before they were really processing it, evidence, and Payne didn't get there until 4:00 that afternoon. So if you consider all the moving parts and just the sheer amount of evidence to have been collected, I don't think it's all that unusual that nobody saw that knife sheath. It was underneath Maddie. So, yeah. So I don't think that it was as shady as it has sort of been discussed in different communities online. But when you really stop and you go back and you look at the Copeaka body cam footage, you listen to him talking to the police, then you read about the search warrant that was executed at his house when he was gone. Man, it makes you think that's actually the connection. Copeaka was actually the guy that turned them toward Kohberger. That he said, "You're not looking for me, but I know who you are looking for." Right? And then he just wasn't going to go to jail. After everything he'd been through, the PTSD diagnosis and all that, he just wasn't going to let that happen. But I think maybe he's the guy. We have there is some GPS information that shows that Bryan Kohberger stopped right outside of Copeaka's apartment building for like 9 minutes. Now, a lot of that requires a leap of faith. I mean, it could definitely be other people that you might know there. I accept all that. But I think when you take the sum total of how it all played out, it's not, it's much more likely. I've always, okay, see, now you're getting further into speculation. it is pretty curious that both of them were from Pennsylvania, only a few minutes from each other in Pennsylvania, and then they both end up out there in Idaho. It's very curious. Now, that's not to say that it couldn't happen. We were living in Houston. We flew to Cairo, Egypt, and started living out there. We'd been there for 2 years, and my daughters had this little friend in her classroom, and they were talking one day, and lo and behold, that little girl's family was actually, they had lived in the same exact subdivision that we did, and they were only 2 rows over, 2 roads between our house and their house. So strange things do happen like that. There are coincidental, things, but when there's other connections, I just think the totality of the information, I don't think it was the FBI that was up to no good. I think Copeaka knew Kohberger, and maybe Copeaka was the one that was driving the car around when Kohberger went in and did the dirty deed. So, it's curious to me that we have dozens of photographs throughout history of Kohberger, and you've got 2 pictures of him smiling. And I've got the 2 pictures of him smiling. One was years and years and years ago when he was suffering heroin addiction. And the other one was the morning of the murders. He's smiling. He looks like a damn vampire. He's given a thumbs up, and his damn thumb is mangled. So I have made the decision. I made the decision that although there still are some really messy, and disturbing elements of this case. Why wouldn't there be? There are 4 young people absolutely slaughtered. It was a terrible, terrible set of circumstances. And you had not only small town cops, law enforcement, but the lead investigator was really did not have anywhere near the experience to manage something like this. But I do think there's other explanations than just the FBI planted the evidence. I just can't get behind that idea. It's too hard to, because you say, okay, well then why did they pick him? Like if they decide that they're going to frame someone, why would they be inclined to frame someone? Just so they can say, hey, we solved it? Okay, well, let's say that they say we framed someone. Now we can tell everybody we solved it. But there's a serial killer out there somewhere it's going to start doing it again. And they're going to say, you idiots got the wrong guy, and I'm still out here, and I'm going to continue to kill people until you catch me. No, they're not going to set up that. Even if small town wanted to do that, FBI would say you're crazy, because that is exactly the kind of thing that the killer would want you to do, because then he could even play more of his, psychopath serial killer games. So you can't just say, I'm just going to believe that they set some poor fool up. There's too many problems with that. The aftermath becomes very, very problematic. And so then you say, well, okay, so where did they get Kohberger? Where did they get his name? Well, they went into Copeaka's house on December the 14th looking for exactly the model, the same knife as what we now know Kohberger ordered, and was going to order a second time. So I don't know. It's pretty. You remember that little dog? I can't remember the little dog's name. If I sat here a minute, it'd probably pop in my head. But remember the little dog, the like a miniature Australian Shepherd, I believe. Buddy. That was the dog's name, Buddy. The parents said they let him out to go to the bathroom one night. They called for him. He didn't return, which was very unusual. And then eventually they ended up finding his carcass, and he had been surgically altered, and they had cut his collar off. He had a blue nylon collar on, and they'd cut his collar off. Well, Brett Copeaka had a machete, and this story came from his friend. And they had like this fascination with slasher movies, right? Like little kids, they had posters of these slasher movies all over the room, and there was like a kind of like a memorial kind of setup for Copeaka by his best friend, and in that memorial was a machete. And hanging off of the machete was a blue nylon dog collar, a thin one, like you would have for a small dog. It was clearly cut. Now, he came out, he was on T-Rev's channel, and he did a couple of interviews, and he was very aggressive, and he said, Copeaka didn't do this. He's an American hero. People shouldn't be trying to wrap him up in this. Y'all are wrong. Y'all suck, the whole 9 yards. But can you please explain to me why the cops have a search warrant for December the 14th looking for the K-bar and the sheath? And on the 15th, less than 24 hours after they executed search warrant, nobody was there. Copeaka's dead by police gunshot, and Kohberger's on the road again with his daddy. I mean, it's not a crazy idea to me. With a lot of thought on this whole thing and all the possible ramifications, that would be the dumbest thing for this small town police to do, is to say, hey, look, we got our guy, because the person that the actual killer is absolutely going to take advantage of that and say, ha ha ha, let's play a game. Who caught the wrong guy? And then there's more deaths, taunting, the things that these, psychopathic games that they enjoy. So it's not so far-fetched. You got him stopping at Copeaka's apartment complex for 9 minutes. They both coming out of Pennsylvania within the same year. There's some curious. I don't think it's a silly idea, and I stand by. That car I don't think that car ever stopped. I don't think it ever parked. I don't think it was ever set aside somewhere for somebody to get out, go run in, commit 4 murders, and then run back and jump in and drive away laughing without a speck of blood anywhere. I just don't believe that's how it happened. I think the car was circling, looking for him to come back out. So this is going to make some people mad, because the people that there are people that are very invested in this case, and they really feel like that a lot of what happened in this investigation was not on the up and up. Like, they really believe that. They're really invested. And these are good people. These are not crazed, weird people. These are good people that have gone through the documents with a fine-tooth comb, and they're smart. Some of them work in law enforcement, or at least provide a support function to law enforcement, and they believe that Kohberger is innocent. And all you got to do is go listen to Brett Payne at that hearing it was a train wreck. And I still think it's going to be a train wreck when we get to the trial and he has to be cross-examined. I think it's going to be a train wreck. And my heart goes out to the Goncalves family and Ethan Chapin's family, the Mogan's family. But it is what it is. So I think that the new information that was given to us by the defense the other day, I think that pretty well seals the deal. I think he's going down. And then that brings us to the other point. You know, Ann Taylor has come in and dropped 3 diagnoses, right? 3 disorders. I don't think she's doing that in an effort to get a not guilty. I think she's anticipating that it is going to be a guilty plea. And I think she's providing these 3 things for mitigation, for the mitigation phase. It's not going to take long for, I mean, I would be willing to bet that he went through a psychological evaluation by the state. And I think just by looking at him, he is probably shockingly high in psychopathy. I mean, I would think that they probably administered the hair. So I just don't know. It's such a horrible, sad, and tragic case. It is going to be an absolutely riveting trial because there's so much unknown. Everyone is going to be waiting with bated breath to hear Dylan Mortensen's testimony. That's truth. And I just can't, considering her age, I just can't even imagine being in her shoes. So I hope that she can find some peace in all of this insanity, because there are people that are absolutely convinced that at the very least she knew that it was going to happen. And some people even go further than that. And I don't think she knew at all. I don't think she knew the people that did it at all. And I think that she was drunk or messed up. And she did hear what happened and she was aware, but she was just so terrified and she just trying to save herself like anybody else would. I think we have to be really careful about getting up on our high horse and have some, compassion for what Bethany and Dylan went through. And I'm still, it is very hard for me to believe that they stayed in that house at night. I don't believe they did. The door was wide open. We have clearly a young woman getting into this Jeep. And not long after she gets into this Jeep and they drive away, then you get what I think is the killer, Kohberger, walking, in front of the trash can. So it all fits together. And, even if they didn't, even if they went to someone's apartment or they went to the hotel or what happened, that would certainly explain why they didn't call 911 before noon, because they felt safe. They felt relieved that they were away from the imminent danger. And they, I don't know. It's sad. It's a sad, but very, very interesting case. So I think that's everything that I wanted to, I think that's everything that I was going to comment on. I agree. He is very high in psychopathy. He has an evil face. And I know that sounds terrible, like I judge appearance only, but yeah, he's scary looking. He's got a very strange his glare, he rarely blinks. There is no movement on his face. There's one time that he smiled at Ann Taylor, and it was like smile gone. I mean, it was like so fast. It was like flipping a page over. It was just weird, So he definitely is detached. He's got flat affect. He's a curious fellow. I don't know that the Jeep is over on the Linda Lane area. I call it a Jeep. I think it's a Jeep because I think it sounds like a Jeep. Some other people have said that it was a truck with a camper on the back of it, but I don't know. I kind of think it's a Jeep. I think you're right about not being there all night. Yeah, just that it. They just, I don't see how they could have tolerated. Here's another, and I know I'm talking like SF investigates. Okay, get yourself together. All right. Here's one of the issues about him being there all night in the downstairs bedroom, Bethany's bedroom. Why would they have stayed down there with the door standing wide open? The door was wide open. There were kids that walked by, I say kids, young adults, that were on their way to class. And they said, we walked by and we noticed the door was open, but there was nothing going on. There was no noise. There was no one around. I think the door was standing wide open because when Bethany said run, I think Dylan ran. It's interesting you say that. Keep trying. Is there research about faces and criminality that showed certain facial types? No, I don't know. No, that the bone structure would not have anything to do with a behavioral thing. Why would Copeaka have a U.S. Marine Corps knife? He was Army. Sure. Yeah, totally. Yeah, not making any kind of correlation between the Marines versus Army. I just know that there actually was, or there is, a search warrant for Copeaka. It was executed on December the 14th. They did go into his house. They left a copy there. And then the next day is when he was killed by police. So I don't know why he would have the Marine Corps knife, but that's just the facts. I agree he's high in psychopathy. I didn't know they were related. Sometime when people use heroin or fentanyl, they use crack to stay awake. Sometimes crack can get you into a psychosis. Manic paralegal creep. Well, look, we're going to find out. Kohberger's dealing with a pretty substantial helping of narcissism. And that wouldn't be unusual considering what he experienced as a young person growing up. So that's that's going to be another part of this, is the substance use affecting his planning and execution of this plan versus the substance use just being a part of the frustration and simmering anger that got him to this point. Colby was in Army and was a culinary chef. Colby? I don't know where Colby is. Some Army soldiers carry K-bars, but not the U.S. Marine Corps bars. Yeah, I mean, we have a K-bar, but we're not Marine, people. A lot of hunters and stuff have them. Pretty much everyone who knows him has said he was narcissistic. That was the smartest guy in the room. Yeah, to the point that even in class, the kids couldn't even ask questions and have a conversation because he was so offensive, talking down on them like they were dumb. And he was pretty tough on the female students. And I did hear, that was something else I heard too, that that there was some confusion, that someone said that the professor that he was having trouble with was a female, and that's why he lost his assistantship. It's not exactly how it played out. The problem is that his direct supervisor was a male professor, right? He was sharing an office with a female PhD student that I think he was friends with, who had an apartment close to the Whites' apartments, which might explain why he kept driving around. He was seen in that area so many times. I don't mean the night of the murders, but in the weeks leading up to that. But there was a female professor that he was openly belligerent toward. He would not allow her to teach. He would challenge her in class. And the way that it all played out is that the female professor went to Kohberger's supervisor and was telling the supervisor, who was a male, was telling him what was happening in the classes, the PhD classes. Okay, this was also something else that was confusing. Okay, so when you're a PhD student, you go to class. You're taking classes, you have professors that are teaching you. But you might also get either a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship. If you get a research assistantship, you're getting paid a little bit of money to help other professors, or to help full-blown professors do research and publish and stuff. But a teaching assistantship, you're going to get a little bit of money, a little stipend, but you're going to teach like the freshman and sophomore classes, right? So you'll have some hours in the week where you're being the teacher. You have some hours in the week where you are the student. And then you'll have hours in the week where you are operating as a professional, in this case, criminologist. So him being in school, being a PhD student, is not really dependent on his teaching assistantship. You can be fired from your teaching assistantship, but not lose your place in your PhD program. I've known a couple of people that happened to. So just because he got fired from his assistantship, he was not kicked out of the PhD program. All right. So that was something the Kohberger people were talking about. And they were saying, no, he didn't get fired. If he was leaving, he would have packed his apartment up, and he didn't, and blah, blah. No. He wasn't removed from the PhD program. He had the assistantship taken away from him. Have they said what his IQ is? Not yet, Rosebud. We'll find that out in the trial when the psychologists testify. I'm guessing it's probably going to be anywhere between 135 and 140, maybe 141, maybe. It's probably pretty heavy one. I understand the theory that D and B left. What doesn't make sense is that they didn't call 911. Yeah, so here's how I think that might look. Right now, this is speculation, y'all. Or I guess this would be theory. I think that Bethany was not there. She was wherever she was at, and that Dylan was there in the house. And when all of this played out, of course, she called and said, "Holy crap, there's a guy in the house and everybody's screaming and yelling and I'm terrified." And that's why you get disjointed text messages, because part of that conversation already happened, on the phone itself. And I think, to make a long story short, Bethany says, come to my room, run. And I think that's what Dylan did. She ran out of the house and went to the Jeep and went to wherever Bethany was. And I think she was 100% in pure fight or flight. And when she walked into the room with Bethany, her brain would have been flooded with chemicals that basically would have given her a deep sense of relaxation, and she would have conked out. She'd have been fast asleep. And then when they woke up, there was just enough denial, disbelief of what may have happened, that it was all going to turn out to be just a crazy story and that everybody was going to be okay. And it wasn't. And I think that's how it happened. Yeah. Leaving in a shared house, a stranger in house isn't crazy or unusual. Well, remember, Northwest, it wasn't just a stranger in the house, even a stranger all dressed in black. What made it so abjectly terrifying was all of the screaming and yelling that was happening, and the thuds, and the dog is barking. She knew full well whatever was happening in that house was not normal. And also, here's another thing. Don't forget, Colby was mentioned as inconclusive under Maddie's nails. Wow, that's so weird. What was I fixing to say? I was fixing to say something. We're talking about terrifying. People living in a house together wouldn't be strange. Yeah, I guess I had finished my thought. Yeah, because even the security camera from a different house picked up the noises from within that house. It was a horrifying. She knew that she was in trouble, that something really bad was happening. My son lived with 4 roommates for 3 of his 4 years in college. Each person had different people in and out at any given time. The other roommates often had no idea who the people were. It is just a different type of life. Totally agree. 100% agree with all that. But it wasn't this nice, pristine, quiet night. It wasn't just, hey, oops, who are you? One of the girls picked you up for the night. Okay, well, great to meet you. There was yelling and screaming and crying. Remember, Kaylee yelled, someone's here. The dog was barking. There was a very big thud. There were people running up and down the stairs. So it was a scary, terrible thing. And then you would have had, in the aftermath, pretty quickly, you would have had the pheromone smells, the iron from the blood. You would have had the body release. Yeah, it was a terrible scenario. And that's the other thing too. That's one of the other reasons that I don't believe that they stayed in the house is, number one, I think she left, and that would explain why there was no call to 911, number one. And then I think the other part of it is, I don't think they would stay. I don't think they could stay in the house. I think the smell would have been overwhelming. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything else. Smell wouldn't fill the house that quickly. Are you sure, Northwest? Have you ever had a dog go underneath your house and die? Oh, yes, it does smell. It does spread very quickly. You got to remember, Northwest, as soon as the body dies, gas begins to build up within the body. And there were 4 of them. Yeah, it would have been after about 5 hours, it would have been been rough. By about 9 o'clock that morning, when the sun is coming up, no, it would have been you'd have been miserable. I think it's one of the reasons why Murphy didn't come out of the bedroom. I think Murphy didn't come out of the bedroom because he knew that smell. He was terrified. It's a very strange, horribly tragic and traumatic set of circumstances. And I do think that there were some mistakes that were made, but I don't think that these two college students, I don't think, why would they do it? Like, how would it? The truth is that Kohberger is a very unusual person. You don't need anybody to tell you that. You can look at the guy sitting there at the defense table. He is not wired the way that 95% of us are. He's a different sort of fellow. And yeah, I think he did it. Now, whether he did it in a like serial killer-esque type thing, it was narcissistic supply, that he was going to be this great guy, criminal that could get away with the worst type of crime. Whether maybe he was working for some drug dealers and he owed money and they said, we're either going to kill you or you can go and earn your money by getting our package from those people. However it all came to pass, whatever it was, I think he's high in psychopathy. I think he would have been able to pull it off with very little emotional reactivity. Eyebrow, super bushy. Yep. I know. I mean, they are bushy, but I guarantee you when the trial starts, he's going to have little girly man eyebrows. And Taylor is going to be plucking those suckers every time they meet. I would agree with you, Northwest. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Yeah, I think it was about narcissistic supply, and he's high in psychopathy. So, he's just your basic monster, sadly. Well, Diamond Paw, I talked about the bushy eyebrow drawings the other day. There is something that's called a reaction formation. And so when people experience a trauma, their brain can get really focused on one element of the environment. And then it can get you can get really hyper focused on that element and become obsessed with it. I think they're going to find out that all those drawings, that they were done after the murders. And that was just her desperately trying to make sense of this disjointed, hazy memory that she had. I think it's just a reaction formation. Well, the only facts, Northwest, the only facts are that he was very young and he managed to get himself addicted to heroin. And it wasn't pharmaceutical pain medication. It was sticking it in his vein. He managed to get himself addicted when he was 16 years old, which is highly, highly unusual. He was in treatment twice for heroin addiction. And when people are struggling, they tend to fall back on old patterns of behavior. So maybe he ended up there in Idaho or Washington. And he was lonely and he was having trouble in his program. People didn't like him. And maybe he ended up using again just because he felt bad, So yes, it is highly speculative. Yes, but it's not just pulled out of the air. There is history there that would support a possibility that maybe he had gone back to that particular drug just to give him a sense of relief, And he still was dealing with the symptoms of visual snow, which is very uncomfortable. This trial will be the one of the summer. I thought Dylan had the drawings before. A lot of bombs are going to be unloaded in this trial, things we haven't thought of. Oh, yeah, Rosebud, I totally agree. Yeah. When you said Dylan's body was flooded with relaxation, I've been in a situation where I walked into a room with a bunch of people there and a guy was murdering people. The first thing I did was GRA. That's horrible, Rosebud. Yeah. So we're hold on. Oh, my computer's doing that weird thing. Sorry, my computer's trying to shut itself down. So we're talking about a physiological reaction to stress or strain. And I was going to show you a video of the Kentucky stiff leg goats. I don't know if any of you have ever seen them. Let me try a different. Nope. When my computer does this, I have to shut the whole thing down and restart it. So I'm not going to be able to show you. But you can look up, you can Google Kentucky stiff leg goats. And basically what happens is the goats, if you scare them, if there's a loud noise or something like that, their blood pressure, like they freeze. Literally, they go turn into a cement pillar, right? They freeze, and then the blood pressure just instantly drops, and then they fall over. And there's some people that buy the goats just because they think it's funny to make the poor goats faint, right? So in human being, well, I guess in any animal, but people, we can have a myriad of responses to perceived fear or perceived danger. The most commons are fight or flight. We all know what fight or flight is, but there's others too. There's freeze, there's fawning where you're, trying to like sweet talk the person that might cause you danger. But freezing, if she was in survival mode and her blood pressure would be really high and she would be very tense, all of the blood would have left her extremities and she was running completely in survival mode. But then as soon as she was in a place where she perceived that she was safe, it'd have been like those goats. Her blood pressure would have bottomed out and she'd have dropped right where she was. She would have turned to wet spaghetti noodles. And then it takes a few hours for the body to recover. Yeah, that's what she said, Northwest. That's what she described. Sure, it can, KJ. Survival, Rosebud, everything slows down into slow motion, and then you can see the details of what you're doing. But you lose breadth, right? You can't see the full field of vision. You can only see the restricted field of vision. which may be what the killer, if it was Kohberger, that may be what he was experiencing. He may have been experiencing a fight or flight reaction, a restricted field of vision, high intense focus in front of him, and he may not have ever even seen Dylan standing there. All he could see was get out that door. That's right. It's getting known. Some people do that. We know a pretty good bit about him. Hey, Jude. We know that he was addicted to heroin, a pretty active heroin addiction by the time he was 16. He was not only heavily bullied by others, but he himself was a terrible bully. His sisters were afraid of him. His father reported him for stealing his sister's telephone. He actually spent some time in jail for that. He was in rehab a couple of different times. So while he's smart, he's capable, socially, he's got a lot of problems. There's not a pro-social bone in his body, I would be willing to bet. But he's going to come back with that high IQ. You watch. He's going to be up around he's going to be up around the two deviations over the norm. I guarantee you he will be. What did the sister say about him? How did I miss that? Wow. I didn't see that. I didn't see where they gave an IQ number. Are you talking about where they listed his? Oh, I can't look it up right now because my computer's weird. I didn't see them give the IQ number. They gave the 3 disorders, the diagnoses. Don't know. Hey, Jude. He looked like a vampire. I don't, unless I skimmed over it, but I really would have picked up on that. I didn't see anything like that. I just saw where they were listing the disorders that he had. But even the 3 disorders, they're going to be used to explain away evidence. He still eats vegan, yeah. Yeah, that's what Northwest was saying, Sketty Nona. I wish y'all could tell me where that was at. I missed it. I don't know how I missed that. Was it in the 130s? Oh, I would think it would be much higher than 118. 115 is 1 standard deviation over the norm. Did you ever see Josh's chat after they caught him? A girl said Bryan was aggressively stalking. We told her to tell her sister to contact law enforcement. Didn't they say, I thought they said something like that he had the lowest level of autism. I'm assuming Asperger syndrome. Asperger's syndrome will not be something that would be diagnosed by a clinical psychologist today, but it's possible that he was given that diagnosis when he was in school as a kid. And then the psychologist will say in school he was given a diagnosis of Asperger's. But they don't usually say ASD traits, not in a forensic eval. Apparently he did, Tiger Prayers. He looks very gaunt in that picture. Hey, you know what? He looks gaunt in that. Well, the school, Northwest, the schools are still using the term. It's highly inappropriate. It's not informative at all in today's world, but the school psychologists and stuff, they have, they're very ingrained with what they want to do, and they have certain instruments they use. But they will still take a kid and say, oh, he's got Asperger's syndrome, instead of giving the proper diagnosis with level of support. So, but you won't get that for a forensic evaluation. Forensic evaluation is highly technical, and it will follow the rules. Well, yeah, so your waist will pick up a 142. They're not very common, but they're out there. Kelly, I do so I have a couple of master's degrees that are specific to curriculum development, specific for gifted and talented students, testings and measures for gifted and talented, things like that. So I have had a lot of people that I've worked with that would be like, I've got a lot of kids that are attending college. Like they might be 12 to 14, 15 years old, but they're, a junior or senior in college. So I do think he's going to be up around 130 or 140. I do think, just watching him, and we're going to see he's a real different kind of a person. Yes, they do. I think he's medicating. He's pale from that. I think that picture, the selfie, I think it was intentionally lightened because his thumb is damaged. You can clearly see the cuts on his thumb. I had a thumbnail here that you could see it. Hold on. Unless I deleted it. Here it is. Oh. Look, you see the inside of his thumb? When you normalize the color on that picture, that's what it looks like. And there's the all the way up to the wrist, it's really swollen. So I think he intentionally lightened it to so you couldn't see that. And the question is it cuts? Is it blisters? Is it just raw skin? It almost kind of looks like raw skin. And then I thought, well, maybe he was practicing with the knife so much that he rubbed it raw. I mean, I don't know, but when you normalize the color in the picture, you can clearly see the abrasions. And this might be a cut right here. And then right across here, that might be a cut. But definitely bruised and, you know. I remember about him messing with the girl at the restaurant, and the manager of the restaurant came out and told him to leave, right? Massive grip and overactivity. That's what my husband said. He said that's damage from using the knife. Pretty horrifying, isn't it? It's a terrible picture. Oh, you know what, KJ? Most people are just irritated by my poor birds. As soon as I start talking, they just start jabbering. It is just the word cacophony comes to mind. I don't think that was the plan, Diamond Paw. I don't think he thought he was going to get caught. I think he's got narcissism and he's smart, and I think he thought he was going to get away with it. I think it was done because he wanted to feel special. And that's not, I mean, I'm sure he's not feeling very special now. So went from handling a pencil. I know, Tiger. I know. Yeah, it was all just a game to him. It wasn't real, you know. And he does have a lot of anger. And his father, in the police report from when he was young, his father talked about his anger. I mean, he is the profile for something like this. And I made the case. I would not be surprised if Kohberger was responsible for other murders. I would not even bat an eye. I would just say, of course he is. You got to think about the hubris to go into a house that's filled with people and believe that you're going to get away with killing one or two of them. So that tells me he probably had done it before. Yeah. His sisters were afraid of him, Ginger. Yeah, they were all afraid. The sisters had one of the sisters, not both. One of the sisters had actually approached the mom and dad and said, "What did Bryan is the killer from Idaho?" This family knew what he was capable of. Well, there was that, and then there was another woman, and I did a video on it. Oh, shoot. And I'm not going to be able to pull it up because, yeah, see. But I tell you what I do. My computer's messed up right now, so I can't pull up the name. I did this video a couple of years ago. A girl in Pennsylvania that really young college girl, drugs, you know, kind of running in the same circles, not far from where Bryan lived. Make a long story short, she just poofed into thin air, disappeared. And I made the case in that video a couple of years ago that I could see Bryan having done that. So I'll maybe I'll repost that. I'll put the link in the discussion on my community tab. And then if you guys want to go back and watch that video, because she really looked like these girls, right? The blonde and, so, and then there was the drug connection. They only a few miles away from each other, partying, both partying groups. And I was like, I could see him being connected to this group, So, all right, KJ Mack, his knowledge of law may be a currency for him. Yeah, he'll be able to unless he's on, death penalty and locked up, in that unit. But if he gets life in prison, he'll be able to have a life, just like Charlie Adelson. Everybody was so aggressive towards Charlie Adelson and, he did it and blah, blah, blah. I hope he has a miserable life in prison. No, he's not. He's going to be the top of the food chain in prison. He's got skills. He's got knowledge. He's got money. He'll be king of the walk, And then there's, in the last 50 years, Idaho has actually executed 2 people on death row. And so really, I suppose, and, correct me if I'm wrong, Northwest, getting the death penalty in Idaho, it just means you get a private room and very little socialization time, right? That's kind of what it means. I think for sure Ann Taylor is trying her best to get him off, which, she is definitely fighting for him. Like, she's invested. And I think that's very interesting. And I'm going to be mad if come time for trial and he's got little girly man eyebrows, little perfectly, groomed and shaped eyebrows. And I'm just going to be like, Ann, that is not what you're supposed to do. This is not about games, Don't, if he's guilty, he's guilty. Who is Scotty Too Hottie? Who are y'all looking for? C-Star? You know what, Northwest? I said that to my husband this morning. I would not be surprised after the Amazon information and everything. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to get an agreement. But do you think the prosecution would do that? Do you think the state would? I don't think the parents would want a deal. Each appearance, they're smaller. That's why I made this thumbnail. They're getting smaller and smaller each appearance. It's not like one big shocking change. It's a little bit, walking it back a little bit every time. And so if you look at this picture of his face, the profile right there where it says 2025, look at the eyebrows there on the side of the orbital bone, and then compare it all the way up to the top left where that was the totally natural state. But little by little, they have been plucked back to where you see him over on the left. Yeah, you're right, Northwest. They're totally doing that. Ginger, he's going to come in with eyebrows drawn on with pencil. Yeah, but then prosecution will have tons of photographs, just like I put up here. They'll show all the photographs. It is calculated, KJ, and I think it's wrong. I don't think a defense should be tricky. He's in the eyebrow plucking phase of his defense, St. Jude. Yeah, he's got his Hugo Boss with his fat tie on. That he has trichotillomania. He's pulling the hair out. Yeah, it's a mess. All right. Well, I guess I've said everything that I was going to say. He's wearing a Temu Rolex. All right. So I've stated my position. I'm probably going to have some people mad at me. I hope they won't be mad. I hope they'll be understanding that we just have a little difference of opinion and that, but people will be mad. The YouTube drama is just really off the hook and I can't be bothered with it. Going to do a deep dive on copeaka. Do that, Northwest. There is copeaka body cam footage. There's all kinds of television news when he was, barred up in the apartment and they were having a big shootout and all that. Yeah, do it. Fascinating. Do you believe he is happy with the notoriety? Well, I think that's a great question. I think that was the original goal, was notoriety. And I don't think he could possibly be happy at how this has turned out, because I do think he was narcissistic enough to believe that he was going to get away with it. He bragged to the local police that he knew more about like digital evidence and that kind of thing, and that he could train them. So he's very arrogant. And so I think he believed that he was going to get away with it scot-free, which makes me think he's gotten away with something else before. And so, no, I don't think he's happy. I think he knows he screwed up. However, he's pretty puffed up when the cameras are rolling and he's walking in and walking out, right? So yeah, I think he is getting narcissistic supply that he's important right now, or what he's perceiving as important. But if you look at him, the last hearing they had, boy, if he weighs 150 pounds, I would be surprised. He looks very, very, very thin, like he's been on a hunger strike or something. So, yeah, but do I think that he likes the idea that people think he's scary and that he's in the newspaper? Yeah, I do think so. Just like Lori liked that crap. Did y'all see where Lori asked to have the case thrown out yesterday? Or Thursday, I think. Oh, thank you, KJ. Well, but you know what, KJ? So just showing another person kindness, right? Just trying to help them calm down and get grounded again. But then the weirdos, the drama group, then they attack you and talk about you're such a bad person because you helped, somebody. You can't win. The drama stuff on YouTube is absolutely unforgivable and out of control. And it's not right for anyone to be subjected to that kind of nonsense. So, yeah. So, but I hope she's feeling better. And I felt, I hate to see anybody get bullied, anyone get bullied on silly YouTube. I don't even understand the bullying. It's just crazy. Anyway, we got to be nice to each other. You know what I mean? All right, everybody, you're awesome. Thank you for being here. I hope you will do a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, I hope you will. I'm not asking you to pay money and join. Just hit the subscribe button. And then that gives me an extra subscriber. And that makes the algorithm pay attention to my channel. All right. All right. I want to talk about Lori Vallow too, but I think I'll do that a little bit later on. Got a terrible headache today. I have thoroughly enjoyed making my case and putting out, my position on this whole Kohberger just slaughter of 4 beautiful young people. And then, the aftermath, their families trying to learn to live without their loved ones. And I finally came, I finally feel good about the way I see this. But one thing is for certain, there's a lot of information that we don't know, and this trial is going to be fascinating. It really is. It's going to be amazing. So please hit the thumbs up. Please hit the subscribe button. And I hope that you guys have a great Saturday night. See you later.
Well, I'm sitting in my chair late at night, watching crime unfold under the pale moonlight. From the darkest corner, stories unfold. True crime jewels, she's brash and she is bold. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From missing kids in Tennessee to angry husbands named Barry. True crime's calling and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This True Crime Jewels got what you need. From missing people to twisted minds, we're unraveling secrets old Barry tried to hide. Every clue, every twist and turn. In the world of crime, there's always more to learn. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From Christopher's anger to Stephen Fisher's lies, the truth is calling and justice won't be denied. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. True Crime Jewels on the YouTube streets. Lights are low, suspense is high. We're chasing truth, we spot every lie. Step into the darkness, hold on tight. Two flashlights out there in the dead of night. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep. Barry Morphew's case is high. A boy in Tennessee won't be left behind. From the coldest cases to the ones that shine, true crime's calling and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This True Crime Jewels got what you need. We're always watching Barry and waiting for the truth. In the world of crime, we discuss the proof. So hit that play and join the ride on this true crime journey. Join Jewels of Thought and our gemstone family.